our theme music.
What's up, everyone, and welcome into our first ever weekly live stream for Buffs News Weekly. I'm your host, of course, Russ Dornish. Coming into today, we're going to discuss the past week so far of news that we've had. I've got a depth chart breakdown now that we have left spring and are moving into, of course, the kind of dead period until summer workouts begin. So, we're going to go through that. I want to get everybody's opinions and ideas and take a look at the depth chart itself to see what everybody thinks of it. And we'll discuss that when we get there. And then to end the show, we're going to kind of discuss the NCAA 25 leaks and more information about that if you're somebody that cares about NCAA football, which, of course, is making its dramatic return after being gone for over 10 years that we have been without an NCAA football video game. So something really exciting and, of course, very Buffs related because of who's on the cover. So to kick us off, we're going to first talk about what kind of was revealed today, which was the kickoff times for our first two games this fall. Some pretty big ones, and we should get used to this because, again, with Coach Prime, first year, we had a ton of nationally televised games. Probably would have had more if not for the Pac-12, but luckily we are out of that mess and no longer have to deal with that and are now in a conference that actually enjoys and likes nationally televised games because of the contracts it has. So, of course, the very first game that we're going to discuss is our opener, which is going to be the game against North Dakota State, which is going to be on ESPN that Thursday night that got moved up. A couple of things to note. We'll do full team breakdowns and previews as the summer goes on. But I just wanted to talk about briefly what to kind of expect with North Dakota State. I am actually from or currently live in the state of Montana, which, if you know, is a pretty big hotbed for FCS football and has quite a rivalry with North Dakota State. In fact, Montana Grizzlies actually beat North Dakota State in the semifinals of the national playoffs last year in pretty dramatic fashion. And so there's a couple things to note when it comes to North Dakota State. Obviously, they are a massive dynasty that's been in a kind of period of not so much success, going on 4 years now without a national title. However, before that, it was something like 9 national titles over the course of 10 years. Pretty dramatic. So they're not that far removed from that. Obviously, the biggest thing about North Dakota State is just the fact that they lost their coach. They got their old offensive coordinator, I believe, from Wyoming, has now joined the team. And they were expecting a lot of turnover as a result of it, and they actually didn't. So they're returning 9 starters on defense. They are bringing back their 5th-year quarterback who has had nearly 5 years of starts. So he is experienced, and him and his top receiver duo are actually considered one of the best in FCS football. So again, we cannot look past this game, okay? It is not your run-of-the-mill, easy to start, let's just blow them up FCS kind of matchup that some of the teams challenge for. No, this is probably as tough as it can get for an FCS matchup at the beginning of the season. However, with us being at home, I highly, highly, highly will favor Colorado in this and could see a potential pretty big victory for Colorado when it's all said and done. It needs to be. If we come out of the gates with a loss at North Dakota State, that is going to set us up pretty poorly for the season. So that is the first game, ESPN. It is that 6 o'clock Mountain Time, I believe, if I'm reading that right. And so that is going to be 9 o'clock. Yeah, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Sorry for those of you on the East Coast. Again, it's kind of the deal you have to deal with when you're a Colorado fan, with us being in the Mountain Time Zone. Luckily, we're not in the Pacific anymore, but still, it's going to be quite delayed when it comes to those games. Now, the second game that was announced, much better time for those of you on the East Coast, but of course, the big one, the rivalry with Nebraska. CU versus Nebraska will be at 5:30 Mountain Time, which is a lot better, and it's going to be on NBC. Interesting fact, Colorado has never been on NBC unless it was a bowl game. So this is the first time we've ever been on NBC playing football without a bowl game attached to it. So something quite exciting to get kind of a different broadcast feel. Probably out of all the networks, Fox is probably my favorite, not only because Joel Klatt is usually a part of it, but you can't beat Gus Johnson making the call. And last year, that TCU game was just absolutely epic. So we'll be interested to see how the NBC broadcast goes and what we get for that. But again, first 2 games of the year already, and we are nationally televised for both. So expect that to continue throughout the entire season. Expect night games, people. We may get a few of those, Big 12 or Big Noon Saturday games with Fox, but we'll have to see once the season comes. But it seems like we're starting to get fed now more information about the games. So I have a feeling the fact that we got 2 today, we should be expecting more here in the near futures. Okay, and then let's move on now. Outside of that, we have a couple of commitments that we want to discuss really quick. Those commitments from this past week, kind of interesting stuff. One of them pretty big. We're going to start with that one. So let's take a look. We've got Savion Riley. So the big thing to note with Savion Riley is, of course, he is going to be joining the safety room for Colorado, but he spent time this spring at Miami. And not only did he spend time this spring at Miami, but Savion Riley actually was running with the number 1s in Miami. So this is no joke that we got him. I looked up why they think that he left. We don't have full confirmation of this, but it appears that the coach that recruited Riley to Miami actually left for the NFL. And so that could potentially be why he decided to leave Miami after joining him this spring. So he is going to be a big part. The only thing that I'm going to see, and we're going to get to that in the depth chart area, is just what that safety room looks like. This year, you can kind of say that the safety room might be kind of set, but next year, there is definitely some openings where he could easily slot into the starter role next year, but I have a feeling he could compete this year as well. Although the 2 spots are going to be probably some of the hardest to actually beat out simply because of who they are, their connections to coach, the way that they work. Going to be a little difficult to unseat them. Really kind of the only way that I see Savion Riley making a massive impact on the defensive end. I still think he'll make an impact is if one of the safeties is injured. So we'll have to see what happens there. Then the other one we've got is an interesting one. If you notice the last name, that is right. And I'm going to try and pronounce this. Please, please, please don't fault me. This is an extremely hard name to pronounce. And we haven't heard or gotten confirmation either from his brother or himself exactly how to pronounce it. But Chijoke Nwankwo. I'm going to hope that I at least came close on pronouncing that name. But obviously, Chidozie Nwankwo's brother joining us for the 2024 class as a walk-on. I did look on the scholarship lists, and he is not listed. So will be part of that walk-on group. And our walk-on 2024 group has actually a lot of interesting pieces to it. With players like Nwankwo, Goldberg, we have a receiver coming in. We have a lot of different players coming into that walk-on role for Colorado next year that'll just be interesting to see what they do if they stick around. Do they eventually make a play for a scholarship and a part of this team in a more impactful role as they get older and spots open up? So interesting spot. He's a defensive lineman just like his brother. Not really, couldn't find any information as far as a recruiting profile goes. What's up, Theo? Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for commenting. Appreciate you coming by. So Nwankwo, interesting one. We're going to have to see how this works out, but this is the 6th sibling pairing that have joined the team. Joining, of course, the Sanders, Hoods, Mathis brothers, now Nwankwo. Who else do we have? Goodness, we have so many sibling connections. And I'm sure that's only going to increase because I do know that a bunch of the players do have some more siblings on the way, potentially coming up through the ranks of high school. In fact, the spring game, a couple weeks ago, I was hanging out in the practice facility where they were having some indoor activities, and we could see all the recruits checking in, and Charlie Offerdahl's brother, who is currently in high school in Colorado, was attending as a visitor. So he could very potentially be another option here in the future as another walk-on, maybe, or even more. And then the last one that we got, this one's very interesting. So I want to talk about this a little bit. So it's Chris Morris, offensive lineman who came from, and let me get the East Mississippi Community College. Now, the interesting part about Morris is he originally started his career at Texas A&M, did not play his freshman year, left Texas A&M to go to Hutchinson Community College. From there, he went from Hutchinson Community College for 1 day to Memphis, and then transferred out of Memphis, came over to East Mississippi Community College, and is now heading over to Colorado. So I don't know the full story. There's no really information online. We can only speculate what's going on. When you see a player go from programs like Texas A&M and Memphis to the community college ranks, I honestly would look at potentially their grades, eligibility, things like that could have caused them some issues with joining or sticking with the teams that they did. However, just seeing Chris's tweet about coming to Colorado, I think he's really looking finally. I think he's got to that maturity level and that age level where he's really looking that this is my big chance and I'm not going to waste it. Be very interesting to see what he is able to do now that offensive line room is quite stacked. And of course, with an offensive line coach like Phil Lodeholt, that's kind of a big plus to come to Colorado. And we're starting to see that in the offensive line room. Phil Lodeholt may be the biggest acquisition this offseason. Let me know if you guys agree or if there are any other acquisitions you'd maybe rank above that. But honestly, right now, I think Phil Lodeholt might have been the most smart decision that Coach Prime did last season and this offseason, trying to upgrade that area. So massive, massive thing. So let's move on to that depth chart that I keep talking about. I want you guys to understand a couple things. So I built this not really with my own personal opinions. I got this mostly from looking around online at all of the resources available, whether that's Adam Munster Tiger, whether that's Brian Howe, whether that's DNVR, all of those places that have kind of talked about where these players have gone and where we've seen them in different things like the spring game and practices. So again, it's not 100%. This is not, the team did not release this. It's also not just my opinion. So there are a couple things that I kind of tweaked because I wasn't sure where they fell on this. So, with that being said, I just want you guys to understand that as we go through this depth chart and look at that. As we go through this, just let me know what you guys think. If there's anything that you guys would change or want to see. Now, the other thing I want to make a point of is I do not have every single player on this depth chart. We have a ton of walk-ons, a ton of upcoming walk-ons. We have other players in the roster. I'm mostly focused at the top of each position. I still went pretty deep on them, but there might be some names missing. Feel free to shout them out in the chat if you feel like they are going to be important pieces to this squad in the fall, and I'm happy to take a look at that, and we can go from there. So, hey, BK Alaskan, good stuff. Looks like the Prime is now in the leads. Try to find a hidden nugget phase with recruiting. Yeah, I think this is kind of the end of recruiting. There's not very much left. And if you are left right now in the transfer portal here, you've got maybe 2 weeks to find a place. Summer workouts are about to start. And if you miss those, you're going to be way behind come the fall when you come into a program. So we're starting to see some of the last minute transfers kind of heat up. So we'll see if we have space for more players. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition. So looking at the depth chart, Here is what we've got right now. And I got to pull this up on another screen. Hold on one sec. Sorry. Okay. So I've got my depth chart on my screen here. Okay. The offensive depth chart is first, and here we can kind of go through the positions, and you guys let me know what we have going on. BK Alaskan, I'd agree. Sapp is a very close second and could be massive if he's able to turn that around. So trenches were our issue, and Coach Prime handily addressed those two issues this offseason, which you can definitely tell with the team. So offensive depth chart, of course, we'll start with the easy one. Quarterback, we know Shador is going to be the starter. I still think that Ryan Staub is going to be our number 2. The kid is working his butt off, and I know that there's obviously the rumors of us going after a 5-star to replace Shador, but don't sleep on Staub. He had quite a good game against Utah. I don't think he's the game-breaking quarterback that Shador is, and I don't think he ever will be, but Staub is going to be a very reliable Division I football quarterback, whether that's with us or him moving on because it's just not in the cards here at Colorado. He is not going to go anywhere but the Division I level. So maybe the G6, I guess is what we call it now, maybe a P4 school, but Staub is going to be, God, them having a similar name, Matt Schaub and Ryan Staub, very similar quarterbacks, I'm assuming, is what's going to happen. But yeah, so Staub definitely number 2, and he is really working his butt off this offseason. Other comment, should have went 10 personnel. They will barely be in 11 this year. Oh, I get it. I really do. That is definitely a point, which is why I'm going to point out, if you notice that I have Omarion Miller at 2 wide receiver on the outsides, I did that specifically because he is going to be in there, whether that's being that 4th receiver, whether that's being, whatever that looks like, it's going to be interesting. But the problem is, and I think Theo, you bring up a great point here, which is Sam Hart, whoever the tight end is, whether it is Sam Hart or whoever ends up being it, we can't just neglect that position and not ever play it, because what that tells the defense is we're most likely not running it. And I'd rather have a blocking tight end to help with the run game than have a receiver trying to block for the run game, because we need to get the run game going a lot more than we did last year. We still won't get it close to 50-50, but if we're like 65-35 in it, that might be not terrible, 60-40, but I don't think we're going to get to a 50-50 split when it comes to running the ball. So let's move on to running back. Of course, this one, again, 1-2 punch, interchangeable. I think when they do get on campus, Dallin Hayden and Rashad Amos, and it is Amos because he even actually does it on his Twitter and shows the phonetic spelling of it, which I haven't heard anybody get right yet. And I saw that on his Twitter and I was like, okay, I guess it is pronounced with an U, which you see sometimes. So it's not Amos, it's Amos, versed on his Twitter account. Micah Welch, I think, will factor in as that 3rd running back. And then Charlie, coming off of the scholarship offer, he's got to be in the talks to get some balls this season. Let's see. Kalo, I think we're going to run the ball. It's going to pay off. Absolutely. And I think that's why we went out and got Dallin Hayden. I don't think that Dylan Edwards liked when we added Dallin Hayden to the lineup. And that's why he parted ways, besides obviously the fact of going home. So I do think that Dallin Hayden is a big reason. And then Amos was just an awesome get by the staff. I think he's going to be a diamond in the rough. Moving on, of course, wide receiver, what I was just talking about. I didn't do 4 receivers and did that kind of set simply because I wanted to go kind of what the base offense would probably be. And so we've got Will Shepard's number 1 wide receiver. He's going to be, I know he hasn't been here. The guy is just it. Playing at the Division I level, doing such a good job in the SEC at Vanderbilt, getting over 1,000 yards. He can definitely come in and contribute within the Big 12 and be probably one of the top receivers in the conference. Then we move on to our other side, of course, Travis Hunter. is going to be the number 2 receiver. However, again, I think that they're going to use him just a smidge less. I know that he doesn't want to, but I think that they're going to do more rotations, especially with the depth that we have at receiver. When you see this lineup, and great point there again, Kalo, the depth that we have now at different positions is so much better than it has ever been. Last year, it was insane. Once those injuries started piling up, we started losing much more personnel and looking to players that shouldn't have been playing Division I Power 5 football. And now I don't think we have that. I think every player across this board that you see on here can play Division I football next year at a high level and be successful for us. Okay, are we Alabama yet? Are we Georgia yet? Are we any of those schools? No, I'll be honest with everybody. I'm not going to be a homer when it comes to that and say we're going perfect 12-0, winning the national championship. I do think we're going to get a good amount of wins, which we will discuss on another week when we discuss and go through the schedule and talk about my projections and predictions. And we can also get your guys' input on what you think about those. But let's go on to the slot receiver, LeJohntay Wester. I think he's going to be in the slot. He is a very good, shifty receiver that runs routes very well, has had an unbelievable spring for the team. And then, of course, I wanted to highlight Omarion Miller is him, guys. He is the future of this team. He will be receiver number 1 next year. Mark my words. He will take the spot of those receivers that are going to be leaving us with Travis and LeJohntay, and I believe Will's on his last year of eligibility. So Omarion is in place to do that, and we're going to have to see. Jimmy Horn, he's going to be right up there, going to be another rotational player, but that is, 5 players for sure that are going to be a part of that rotation. Not to mention, we keep forgetting about Cordell Russell, baby T.O. He has not come to campus just yet, but he is working his butt off, guys, and he is going to be a big-time player. So think about this. This year, receiving look great. Next year, we could have a receiving duo of Omarion Miller and Cordell Russell. I think that is an unbelievable way to transition next year to whoever's the quarterback, and that is going to be an awesome thing. So, BK, real quick, I agree with the running backs. You can bring in the sledgehammer, Amos, or switch it up with speed. I think Charlie will get some carries. Yeah, Charlie's not scholarship for nothing. They're going to use him a little bit more. And then Kalo, LeJohntay is the guy, and so is Will. Absolutely. Both are going to have massive seasons. I can't wait, honestly, to see them perform next year. This is going to be a fun offense to watch, guys. Hold on to your hats because you thought TCU was exciting to watch. This offense right here is going to be explosive, and we're going to bring a different kind of team to the Big 12 than what they're used to. We're still kind of in that Pac-12 model of that super high-powered offense, maybe similar to what Texas Tech has done for so many years. We got to bring that to this league and kind of show them what that looks like. And again, once we get to the defense, hopefully we can stop the run. That's going to be the key this upcoming year. Let's go real quick through the offensive line. Like was mentioned just a little bit ago, that is in, and can we, I don't even have the freshmen on here. I couldn't fit them. So Sean, thank you for pointing that out. Draylon Miller and Cam Michael are going to be absolute dogs on this team next year. I'm sad that we lost Dylan Edwards. I really am. I thought he was going to have a really massive impact on this team. But in the words of so many coaches out there, or actually Kirby Smart recently, how that came out on a podcast, if you guys have seen this, but he used to tell his players, go ahead and leave. I'll replace you with another you. And in all honesty, Draylon Miller and Cam Michael are those fast, shifty guys who are going to bring a lot to the offense, potentially next year, but especially going forward. We are good in the positions that we are looking at. Okay, moving on to the line. Let's go through this real quick. I still think Jordan Seaton is locked for left tackle. You guys got to realize, and you're going to have to give him a little bit of a leash. He is not going to be perfect next year. That's just not going to happen. If you watched the spring game, which the first 2 plays of that spring game were not good for Jordan. He got speed rushed both times and the guy blew past him and got to Shador very quickly, but he settled in. I think it's going to take him some time. I'm glad we're playing North Dakota State first. I think that'll be a good test to get him started. It's not going to be easy, but I think it will be a good test getting him prepared, especially for that Nebraska game. That's going to be trial by fire for him as a freshman, because I will say Nebraska's defensive line is no joke. We cannot overlook that. I'm glad that we finally have somewhat of a line this year. We don't know yet what that looks like, but it's definitely, I'm sorry, on paper, it is 100 times better than what we had last year. Here's where it's kind of interesting. The depth that we have, guys like Phillip Houston, Ethan Boyd on the right side, Peyton Kirkland, Zach Owens, all these guys have played on different parts of the line. So I just kind of have them shifted around for depth on here on the depth chart, because again, we don't really know where they're going to fit in, but it just goes to show where the depth is on the offensive line. Okay. And Theo, great point when it comes to Seton and that patience. I think what we really want to look at is going to be at Alabama. Oh my gosh, why can't I remember his name? The starting left tackle that went to Iowa and came back to Alabama. He's a good example. He had a lot of growing pains the first couple of months of the season. And then by the time they got to the bowl games and the playoffs, he was much better. Yeah, Caden Proctor. Thank you. Thank you, Theo. Caden Proctor, absolutely very important to go look at that case study. He had his ups and downs. We got to be patient. The good news is Shador is very mobile when it comes to moving around in the pocket and doing what he needs to do. So I have no doubt that he'll help Seton and give him what he needs in order to be successful on that left-hand side. Left guard, I have Justin Mayers. That could be interchangeable with Tyler Brown. They could honestly go on either side, but I believe he'll be on the left. Center. Here is an interesting one. I think going into the spring, everybody thought that Yakiri Walker would be number 1. But as the spring went on, I don't know if it's because of injuries or what, Hank Zelinskas took over that role. And I think he is right now in the lead to take the starting center job for next season. The dark horse in that would be Tyler Brown. If somebody is a little bit better at guard and maybe he keeps going in his development for center, great. But I think he is entrenched at that right guard position. Tyler Brown has had an unbelievable spring, guys, and I'm so excited to have him back. He is going to be every bit of what we've been waiting for. Probably one of the biggest things we were missing last year. I hate that he had to sit and then they changed the rule after the fact. So Tyler Brown, big time, which is interesting because Tyler Johnson has not shown out like we all thought he would. We thought he was going to be the right guard no matter what. And I don't know if it's injuries or what is going on with him. He's dropped down just a little bit. Very interesting that he stayed around. A lot of people thought he would be a transfer portal. Kayla, I did see Tyler play at JSU. I thought he's a great player. The question always is can they make that move to Power 5 defensive line players against them? However, again, I agree. Practices have shown Tyler Brown is a dog with a capital D. I guarantee you he's going to have a D on his jersey from Coach Prime. That guy works his butt off at practice, off the field. This guy is going to be, mark my words, Tyler Brown is playing in the NFL next year. Or 2 years. He's got 2 years of eligibility. So he's playing in the NFL though when he's done. And then right tackle Khalil Benson and here's the interesting part, because I also didn't include the new get that we got in Chris Morris. He is technically also, I believe, a right tackle, but then you've also got Ethan Boyd, who was a tackle for Michigan State, is a senior with only 1 year of eligibility, and he came to Colorado. I'm a little confused on that because of the depth. I didn't expect anybody with only a year of eligibility to join us when we are so solid at those points. So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen there, if they're going to move somebody around, what is going to happen in that room, whether or not he's fine with being a depth piece or somebody else is. Very interesting. Let's move on to the defensive side. This one is a very interesting one, guys. There is a lot here that can change. This one is probably the closest that I've seen to what I think will happen, but there's a lot of positions I think should change. One of them that I changed kind of on my own will be the defensive tackle spot. You guys can let me know. We have, I definitely think Nwankwo is going to be our starter. I think Anquan Barnes and Torian Carter are going to compete for a starter role. Shane Coates is technically in a starter role, but I just don't know how he can continue to stay there with so much competition down the middle. I feel like there are better options, but Coach Prime loves himself some Shane Coates, and he is a captain and leader on this team. So I just think that he's going to come away with a starting spot eventually. Now, here's the one you guys are going to want to watch. All off season, when we get to workouts, when we get to fall, it is going to be the edge room. Now, the list that you see on this edge room, and right there, Theo, agreed. Our edge room is probably one of the best rooms in our team. So it goes wide receiver, probably one of the best. It's probably top 10 in the country. It's been rated that way by media outlets, so I'm not just speaking out my rear end when it comes to that. But the edge spots, oh my goodness, we could rotate a player on each side every single down and have the same type of production from those players. When you have guys like Dayon Hayes, who did start ahead of Okunlola at Pittsburgh. That's the only reason I have him listed ahead of Okunlola. I think Okunlola is going to have probably the best season out of the entire edge room. Okay. I think Okunlola is going to lead the team in sacks. If he does that, he will definitely take over that starting role. But then we've got BJ Green still coming in, the sack master from Arizona State University, who's also really good with the run. Then we've got Nikhil Webb-Walker. We've got Tajay McCoy, who has just done everything that he has been asked. And I agree, very good point there. I do think that this is probably the deepest. Oh, sorry, wrong comment. This is the deepest edge room in college football. Not the best. Not the best. I can't say that yet. But you've got to admit, deep-wise, with potential players, has to be focused on that edge room. Tajay McCoy, don't sleep on him. Arden Walker, he's been injured all spring. He had probably one of the better seasons last year. Him and Jordan Dominic on the outside were probably the best that we had available to us. And, that's just what we've got going on there. So edge room, honestly, interchange that however you want. We're going to be rotating. We're going to be keeping them fresh so that they can go after the quarterback and go after the run game. I'm very excited. This entire trench on both the offense and the defense is 100 times better, guys. You don't understand just how much better we are than we were last year. Theo, if we did get Harmon, that would have been insane. I would have called it right then that our D-line room would be one of the best, if not the best. But unfortunately, we just couldn't afford it. And you know what? Let Oklahoma have him. They have the money for it. He's going to make a lot of moves there. And that's just going to be, how it happens there. So Brandon Davis Swain, I hope he's okay with potentially redshirting as a freshman. I know that we lost Eric Brantley, to the transfer portal. It sounds like he is bought in to Boulder and Colorado. And so I would love for him to just hang back, learn from this massive room, and then next year make that big step into the rotation as the season goes forward. Now, here's the surprising one for you guys. This is my only concern, and we're going to go over this right now. My biggest concern with this depth chart is, unfortunately, the cornerback position. We are not as deep as you would think in the cornerback room because, unfortunately, we lost a couple guys that would have played a big part in that depth. Omarion Cooper, losing him was massive. He was going to compete for a spot. I guess the writing was on the wall. He didn't want to do that with this room, and so he moved on. I know we know our starters. Our starters are going to be DJ McKinney, Travis Hunter, and Preston Hodge. We know that. Colton Hood, he'll be able to compete for one of the starting jobs in cornerback as well. That's going to be your 4 guys. Those are your 4 cornerbacks that are in, they're solid. They are your starters. They are going to be in there competing for that. Outside of that, that's where things get a little shaky because you've got Isaiah Harge coming back, Namir Robinson coming back, Nathaniel Watson coming back, and then you've got 3 freshmen. I had to include them. Otherwise, I couldn't have filled out the depth chart. That's how lack of depth we have now on the corner spot. We have, of course, Malachi Hollywood Murphy coming in. We have Ben Boozy coming in, and Angel Lopez coming in. And BK Alaskan. Are you talking about Namir Robinson? Let me know if you're talking about Namir. I can't. I think it's his Hamir. Hotmir. Am I missing that one? Let me know. So the depth isn't there. The other problem is these guys are seniors. Travis, done. DJ or Preston, done. DJ has an extra year, but I don't know if he sticks around or not. We'll see. We have really nothing coming unless Ben Boozy, Malachi Murphy can make the jump and be a part of that. But look out for next offseason because Coach Prime's going shopping for corners for sure. We also got Ivan Yates. I forgot about him. He just came in, committed from Furman College. He will probably play a role as well. I would put him above Isaiah Harge and the other players within the cornerback room. Now moving to linebacker. This one's a tough one, guys. This is a really, really tough one because we just added Johnny Chaney Jr., and I don't think he's coming here to sit on the bench. I think he's going to start, but the problem is we have Levante Bentley listed out there, and so I don't know what's going to happen there, guys. I really don't in the linebacker room. That's the tough part. But guess what? We are finally have depth in the linebacker room. We did not have that last year. We do this year. We've got Levante Bentley, Johnny Chaney Jr., Trevor Woods, of course, still in the linebacker room, and Nakai Hillgreen and Jalen Wester coming in from the transfer portal. And then, of course, we can't sleep on Jeremiah Brown. He has done everything Coach Prime has asked of him. Well, from his time at Jackson, coming with him to Colorado, working his butt off here in Colorado. He didn't leave this offseason. He's continuing to work. He's only got 1 year of eligibility left, so this is going to be an all-in for him. I'll be very interested to see what he does. Lastly, moving on to the safety room, we've got, of course, our starters for sure. And this is where I was saying with Savion Riley coming here, I'm a little surprised that he ended up with us and not somewhere else. To go from the 1s with Miami to the 2s potentially behind Shiloh, a little bit of a weird thing. So, yeah. Shiloh to strong safety, Savion likely free safety. That could potentially happen. But hey, here's the thing. No, Namir Robinson's still here. Because if you remember, Coach Prime had that moment with him like a couple weeks ago because Namir Robinson's father is Nate Robinson, who's right now needing a kidney transplant. So they had that cool moment that went on social media about Coach talking to him, asking him how he's doing. Nate Robinson has been constantly posting how much he loves Coach Prime. So I don't think Robinson has left the team yet. I saw him listed on the roster. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody else too. And I'm happy to take that off. But then we got Savion Riley and RJ Johnson, 2 transfers in as backup. Herman Smith, a transfer, and Travis J. That's going to be, that's what I thought, Kalo. Namir is staying because they just love Coach Prime so much. So that is what it looks like, guys. Besides the cornerback room, which is a little shocking coming from a Coach Prime coach team where that's usually the strongest part of the team, we are looking quite well depth-wise. Let me know right now in the comments what you guys think. Give me one number. Don't give me a range. Just give me one number. Your expectations for wins. We're going to go over it next week on Tuesday. We'll go over the schedule and determine what we believe will be wins and losses and what the game will be like. But let me know in the comments right now what you think your number is, okay? And I'm fine with it. Okay, let's move on to the last little segment of this, which is the kind of the fun one, and it's something that I love as a Colorado fan, and you should too, and that is the college football world angry at Colorado because guess what? We're important. We're on the cover of NCAA Football 25 with the reigning national champions and the quarterback from Texas, everybody. That's right, Colorado, who's never had an NCAA football cover in its history, okay? Michigan has had several NCAA covers. Texas has had several NCAA covers, but here we are, Colorado on the front of NCAA 25. The other covers will be revealed May 16th. They have a countdown to reveal all the covers as well as some gameplay footage and reveals being done then. So make sure you guys are staying tuned and looking at that because that's going to be some exciting things. I don't know who else here is a big college football fan for video games, but I know I am. And we're going to be streaming me playing the game, building up Colorado right here on the channel. So make sure you guys stick around. And of course, if you haven't yet, subscribe on YouTube so that you guys know when we go live with the NCAA 25. Little bit of a quick rundown, super quick, and then we're going to get your guys' questions and the wins, losses, all of that, all the comments you guys have been leaving me. Thank you so much. Okay, so here is a list of the features that have been confirmed for the video game if it interests you. The first one being all 134 teams will be in the game. All 134 FBS teams. First time ever in the history of the franchise that it has had that. And then let's see. No coaches in the game this year. That's right. We have all the players. Over 13,000 players have signed their NIL deals, but no coaches this year. I'm assuming they couldn't get the deals done in time. They focused on the players. We'll see next year. I do wonder, though. EA does have an agreement already with Coach Prime because of his connection to Madden. So I wonder maybe Coach Prime makes an appearance somewhere. I know that would make everyone angry. We have all the bowl games. 12-team playoff is included. ESPN commentary and game day have been confirmed. Conference realignment is going to be available in case you guys want to make that super conference. And then lastly, of course, Dynasty and Road to Glory mode will be in the game, but with the added benefit of NIL and the transfer portal, which is going to make this game absolutely wild, guys. I can't even believe that we are going to get this game with what it looks like here. Okay, let's go on to questions and all of that right now. Thank you again for joining me today. We'll get to your guys' questions and comments, and then we'll get out of here for the day. And that'll end our first stream. Okay, going back up through all of our comments. Let's see what we got here. Show me all the comments. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go back up a little ways. BK Alaskan, yeah, BJ has to pick it up because the other players are not far behind. I get it. I know the Buffed and Prime video of BJ Green not looking so great on the back end of plays, but I have a feeling we'll see maybe a different BJ Green, but we'll see. Okunlola, a monster. He is 100% a monster. Of course, our cornerback room is shaky, but our starters, as long as no injuries happen, fingers crossed, no injuries. Okay, we can't afford for any of those. And sure enough, Cat, exactly. This defense on paper is insane. We've got one big year for that. So I'm very interested to see what happens there. Oh, hey, Charles Mohammed, how goes it? Thank you for joining in today and watching. We've got 100 people watching. I really appreciate it, guys. I realize this is how we're going to grow the channel besides just my Saturday videos, doing these live streams where we can communicate, talk, hang out, have some fun. That's going to be a nice thing to do. Okay, let's see some of your guys' predictions. So, Cat, you've got 11 wins. Decepticon, 10 wins. Okay. Theo, 9 wins. Kalo going with the 12-0 on our way to the college football playoff. Let me know if you think we're winning the Big 12 with that record. And then let's say Cat, I want to say 12, but it's a trap game on there somewhere. That's my thinking is I will let you guys know in a second what my prediction is overall, but I do agree there's going to be a game on there that we probably shouldn't lose, and we might. But then again, good teams, championship teams don't have that problem. So we'll see what happens then. Okay. BK Alaska, 9 wins. Okay. And then a couple more comments here. Kalo, he feels it too. Ilcat, Texas and OU out, the blueprint out to diminish the Big 12. Coach Prime building just like that. We win the Big 12 championship this year. I will say, with Texas and OU out, we definitely have a very similar personnel when it comes to offense, and defense is getting up there on paper. So agreed, we definitely have a chance. BK Alaskan, what do you think? Could CU have a game with 15 mil TV audience this year? Here's what's going to happen, BK, and let me know what you guys think. But if we start hot again, okay? If we start hot again, winning North Dakota, that's got to be a must. Winning Nebraska, winning CSU. If we win that Baylor game, it's on. It's on. That 15 mil TV audience is going to happen at that point. As far as what game that could be, we'll go over that next week on what I could potentially see, because I think the biggest watch is going to come if we're ranked and the team we're playing is ranked. So there are a few teams on that schedule in the Big 12 that I think could be those ranked squads. And so when that happens, that's going to be your massive game. Although CSU could do it. We know that a ton of people watched the CSU game last year. You know that they're going to tune in again just because of the drama and what happened last year. So if any game was going to hit 15 mil, I think it could be CSU. Otherwise, we have to wait for the hype to build just a little bit. Theo, hoping for a 2019 LSU type season. We can only hope. Kalo, yes, Big 12 champs, playoffs. BK Alaskan, how long before the rest of the Big 12 catches on that this team is good? As bad as this sounds, it's going to take a while. Even if we start off hot, they're going to say that it's just like last year. It's fake. Honestly, until we if we beat Kansas, they're on the back half of the schedule and maybe are undefeated, then I think people start saying we're good, but I don't think they do that. Even if we beat Baylor, even if we start the season 4-0 and we're in the top 25, I think they're still going to call us last year's team, and we're of course going to hear the 4-8 comments again because we've won 4. We're going to go on an 8-game losing streak. We'll have to see, but I hope they start realizing that this is going to be a big deal. Okay, Ilcat, they going to have 2 games with 15 mil, the first and the second game prime time. So you're going first 2 out of the bracket. I will say, I forgot about this, and Ilcat, you are great in this, which is the North Dakota game could see a ton because we are the first college football game of that weekend, and it is at the very beginning of the season. People are hungry for college football. I guarantee that other fans from other teams and any college football fan will be watching that game, mostly out of spite, but mostly because they're itching for some football, and hopefully we can have it as a good game. So definitely think it could happen. I don't care where you're at in the country. Everybody's talking about CU, so 15 million will be easy. Yep. And thank you, BK Alaska. That logic, I know. That could be it. That first game could be a big one. And I think that's why they moved it to Thursday, and that's why they moved it to ESPN. Just makes sense. So big game. Okay, that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. 102 viewers. Thank you for joining us. We will be live every Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. Mountain Time. And then, of course, make sure you guys subscribe and watch our Saturday news review videos. We summarize the entire week's worth of news. It's your one-stop shop to get everything at once. I know there's a lot of channels out there that do moment by moment, little quick 20-second videos saying this just happened, and they throw it up on YouTube. Nothing wrong with those channels. Nothing wrong with what they're doing. Absolutely. But if you want to just wait and get it all in one chunk in a 10 to 20 minute video that you watch every Saturday on the weekends, great. When the season starts, we will be moving it back to Mondays, but that's because we can do a wrap up of the Saturday games as well. So thank you guys so much for joining. Again, hit the like. Make sure you guys are subscribed to my channel, and make sure you tell your other Buffs fans about the channel as we continue to grow. We are this close to the 1,000 subscriber mark. I don't know if you saw that. We're on the back end of the 500. We're getting there. We're very close to 700. And so we only have a little ways to go. Hopefully we hit that before the season. That's going to be my goal. But yeah, until Saturday's video or next week's live stream, I'm your host, Russ Dornish. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sko Buffs.